Hello, everyone. Happy September. Tomorrow, I know you. Yeah, you'll probably watch this tomorrow. It's Friday the 13th. Spooky, very spooky. It should be in October, but hey, it is what it is. Speaking of October, my birthday's on a Friday in October, so that's fun. As always, obligatory self promotion. My poetry book, What If I Ruled the World? Poems inspired by music, linked everywhere. Bio, in the description, as always. And I have a little bit of an announcement for my new book. I've actually written all the plots for the short stories, and I'm going to outline. I'm really trying to be organized. I usually just get the idea and just start writing. So I'm trying to be a little bit more organized this time. Even though I'm going to be honest with you, I did say that I in my to-do list to write the outlines, but I might just wing it. But because you can always edit and change stuff, so it is what it is. We'll see what happens. I got a new haircut. Your boy looking fresh. Um, I feel so nice because I did not wash my hair before the appointment because I knew I was going to get my hair washed. My hair feels great. Um, yeah, Ulta, shout out to them. They've been doing their thing. So today we're here to talk about my number 7 favorite horror movie, Teeth. It is a comedy horror, and it was released January 18th, 2008. I will say there was some comedy, but to me, it's like a mainly horror, especially given a lot of the circumstances. Seemed pretty horrific to me. It was directed by Mitchell Lichtenstein. Lit, Lichtenstein. So sorry to Mitchell. I am butchering your name. Okay, so the cast is Jesse Wexler. I'm butchering everybody's name. As Dawn O'Keefe, she's the main character. And then John Hensley as Brad, who is her half brother. Step brother. I think it would be half brother because I think her mom and his dad get married, so they will be half. Correct me if that's not right, but either half or step. But yeah, he is very creepy. I'm gonna get to that. Um, Josh Pice as Dr. Godfrey. She goes to the gynecologist for the first time. That's the doctor. Um, Holly Hale Appleman as Toby, who is her. I don't know if they're like officially boyfriend and girlfriend, but they're like booze. We're just gonna go with that. Like you can tell that they like each other, but I don't know. I can't remember in the movie if they made it official, but they were hanging out. Lenny Von Dolan as Bill. I think that was her. No, that was Brad's dad, and then Vivian. I can't even say her last name. Which can call her Vivian B as Kim, who is the mom. And then I think these. We're not gonna go over everyone, but there are extra people. There's some friends, and then at the end, there's like this weird old man. I feel like they're important, but they're not like the main people you need to know are Dawn. She's the main character. Toby. Oh no, Ryan is another person you need to know. Ashley Springer as Ryan. I think he was the guy that had a crush on her. So but he was trying to compete with Toby. Like he was trying to ask her out first and stuff. Or was it Phil? Clearly. So Adam Wagner is Phil. So it was either Ryan. I think it was Ryan. That's the one that really liked her. And then Brad's girlfriend is Nicole Schwan, which is her name is Melanie. And the synopsis is still a stranger to her own body, a high school student discovers she has a physical advantage when she becomes the object of male violence, which very messed up, as you can imagine. So I just want to give a warning if you do want to watch this movie, there is a sexual assault, and also a warning, trigger warning. I am going to talk about sexual assault during this video. I'm not going to go into any like explicit details. I'm just talking about it in general. So just a heads up. Where can you stream it? You can watch it for free on Tubi, which is where I watched it. I'm always wondering, am I saying Tubi right? I have to check that later. Um, that's just how I feel like that's how it looks to be Tubi. Anyway, Flex, Prime Video, Freevee, or you can rent it from Apple TV, Fandango at Home, Google Play Movies and TV, YouTube, and YouTube TV. Um, I don't know what the difference is. I think YouTube TV actually has channels. I think that's the difference. But it's like I don't know why you need two different names for the same platform. But I guess one is technically for TV channels, and one is just for YouTube. So I don't know. They need something else, like a YouTube Plus. I don't know. Something else. I guess YouTube TV does describe it, but anyway. So now I'm going into my pros and my cons and my overall opinion. So my pros, number one is the story. I like the story. It's pretty straightforward and simple. I feel like I've said that for like every single movie. Maybe I'm just my brain doesn't want to work hard. I feel like my brain's gonna work hard for like the ones coming up because the next movie is Black Swan. There's a lot going on in that, and then all of Jordan Peele's movies are coming up. There's a lot going on in all of them all the time. So my brain's gonna really be working in these next 6 movies probably. Uh, yeah, and you can see the evolution of Dawn from being completely into purity culture to being unfortunately sexually violated, and to her deciding to fight back with her ability, which I'm not going to spoil, even though it's. I feel like a lot of synopsis already mention it, like on Wikipedia, like I said in my short video. So I mean, you could find out, but I don't want to be the one to spoil it. I really like that her ability can be activated depending on what she wants or the circumstances she's in. And I also like that the bad characters get what they deserve throughout the story. And they do. I'm so happy about that. I hate it when I'm watching a horror movie or like even a regular movie, or I guess regular, or any other kind of movie where something bad happens, like a romantic comedy, any other kind of movie, and the bad person doesn't really get what they deserve. I want them to get everything they deserve all the time. Even if the movie's not supposed to be violent, shoot them. What do you mean somebody stole your recipe and won the bake sale? I know it's probably not. That sounds like a Hallmark movie. I know they ain't gonna be shooting people, but they didn't get what they didn't get got. I hate that. But in this movie, that doesn't happen. Everybody who deserves something bad to happen to them gets something bad happens to them. So it's really satisfying in that regard. So next pro is characters. Dawn was played very well by Jess. I'm gonna say her last name right. Jess W. She embodied her character super well and her struggles with purity as a way to make herself feel morally superior, which I'm going to go into that more later. And how her character evolved over time, being violated by several men, and how she took her power back with her ability. And the scenes with the doctors were very funny and a nice break from the intensity of the story. So once you learn what her ability is, you'll figure out that there are some injuries, and the doctors make jokes about it. Oh, at least one scene the doctors do make a joke about it. And they're like, is it even worth it to fix this person? And it's really funny. Like, not you unconscious and the doctor's roasting you. So that was really cool. That was a part of the comedy, I would say. Um, and even in the horror parts, I will say there was funny parts, but I was still like, but I feel like it was pretty intense, like what was going on. Um, Especially one character. I think it was Ryan. Toby was a jerk too, but he already got what he deserved. And then Ryan, like, admit something to Dawn. Like, basically, he played her. He's like, basically, I'm not going to go into too many details because I want you to watch the movie. But basically, he played her, and he decided to tell her to her face as if she's not going to be mad. I'm like, you got some audacity. Like, you telling somebody you played them, and you just think they're going to be fine. I don't know. If men don't have nothing, they have the audacity. They really do. And I think everyone else played the characters well too, especially the stepbrother. I call him the stepbrother. Half brother, whatever he was. I couldn't wait for him to get what he deserved, and I wanted to strangle him through the screen. He was so creepy. Um, he was like the opposite of her. Like Dawn is really, all about purity, Christianity, and Brad was like the polar opposite, like cursing, sexual, uh, you know, and a weirdo from the very beginning. Um, and I don't want to spoil what happens, but he does something bad at the beginning, and I can't remember if she remembers. I feel like she does remember. Um, and then he ends up remembering, but kind of too late. So yeah, so you gotta be careful with your kids. You gotta tell your kids what is appropriate and what is not, especially with like someone who's supposed to be your sibling, even if you're not direct siblings. So I mean, I don't know if that spoils it, but but yeah, I was ready to kill him myself. Uh, the last pro is settings. I liked that this happened. I like the small town setting because it really focuses the story. Um, I lost my place. I feel like this would be a different story in like a big city or like another country. It gives off how could this happen here kind of vibes, and it really shows it can happen anywhere. Like you think you're safe in a small town. Reminds me of all those documentaries and like crime shows where they're like, nobody ever thought it would happen here, and then it happens there. You know, and I feel like if it was in a big city like New York, it would be very different. It would give more, be very different. Like for example, I just re re-listened. I just listened to the audiobook of Push, the book that Precious was inspired by. And, like their lives is like so different in New York compared to like in this small town. So that's like kind of an example. Like they have unfortunately really bad things happen to them, but it's like so different because of the city. So yeah, those are all my pros. So let's get into my cons. I only have one con, and it's Dawn's ability. I wish it was explored more thoroughly. Like towards the end of the movie, she can control her ability. Um, and it would have been interesting to see how she like mastered it more with more time. So with her ability, usually when she's in danger or something's like happening to her, it activates. But when she's in a nice consenting like setting, like nothing bad happens. The ability doesn't activate basically, and I would have liked to like have her explore that more. You know what I mean? In my overall opinion, I think this movie is a good example of having something traumatic happen to you, and you can change, and can happen to you can change who you are as a person. And Dawn had been sexually assaulted, internalized it like a lot of women and girls do, unfortunately. Especially when it comes to her being a Christian and so into purity culture that it becomes a way to make herself feel worthy, which I already said. But I would say, but I will go more into that later, though. I do have a rant about that. And I think the story was very simple and relatable, probably to a lot of women and girls. I think a lot of us, including myself, would love to have Dawn's ability. If somebody hurts us, we got to do. I feel like a lot of women who've been in that situation probably wish that they had her ability so they could protect themselves. The story was complemented by the actors doing a great job. The setting was realistic, and the music fit every single scene. Of course, I would have liked to see Dawn have more control over her ability and explore more. But overall, it's a great horror movie. And of course, 10 out of 10. Highly recommend. All these movies are going to be 10 out of 10. Um, there is one movie on my favorite horror movies list that I did not technically give a 10 out of 10. We're going to talk about that once we get to that one. So yeah, that's my overall opinion on it. Of course, I'm going to recommend it. And it's free on like a bunch of sites. So you don't have to pay to see it unless you just want to part with your money. I don't want to tell you what to do. But yeah, let's get into my rant. I'm gonna rant about purity culture. Purity culture. Which let me tell a little story. I was gonna tell this in a short video, but I did not. I decided to talk about something else. And I want to talk about something that happened to me as a former church girl. When I was a teenager, a child, remember this? Me and other children, other teenagers, went up. I will say this is not. This is it's weird, but it's not as weird as like those dances with your father and stuff to promise to save your virginity. But we did have a purity ceremony at my church. We just went. I don't think we didn't really do anything super special. We just went up in front of mostly adults. Think about this. And said, yeah, we're going to save ourselves for marriage in front of the whole church, pretty much. Which I think, like, of course, in the moment, you don't think it's weird. You're just like, oh yeah, I'm just, you know, keeping my promise to the Lord. But in reality, unfortunately, there are people who could have, and from my personal experience, I did not have anybody pray on me at the church, but that doesn't mean that other people didn't have that experience. And then also, if you don't um, keep that vow, for example, one of my best friends we still talk, from church got pregnant. So then that's like like after you made this promise, in front of everyone, then if you don't, like, if you visibly, like, you're pregnant, you're not married, then I feel like it makes the person feel bad and makes, people feel ashamed because you made this vow not only with God, like alone, but also in front of everyone. So then it just, and it's like taboo, I remember when my friend was pregnant, I didn't know first because we don't live like in the same area. So not like I see her regularly. My family was asking me, and it was kind of like, I don't know if embarrassing, but it was kind of like, oh wow, like, we made this vow and then some of us didn't keep it. And I know other people didn't keep it. I didn't keep it. Um, because some of my other friends from my former church have children and they're not married. So yeah, I just want to share that experience because that's just so weird. Now, it's weirder to do the purity stuff with your dad. That's just too much to me. Like, why are you promising your dad that you're gonna be a virgin? And I guess I get it because like the man's giving away the woman their child at during marriage, but that's also weird. Number one, because now you're like, oh, you belong to your dad, but now you belong to another man. That's weird too. But anyway, even though I'm probably gonna have my dad walk me down the aisle, but you know, my friend actually had her mom walk her down the aisle, so you know, maybe I'll switch it up. So we'll see. But let me get into my rant. So I want to rant about purity culture because it places women and girls' values on their sexuality instead of who they are. And that's like one of the things. Was it this movie? Oh no, I follow an ex-Mormon. I had talked about this before. Named Alyssa Grenfell. I think it's Grenfell. And like so much is placed on modesty. What you're wearing, what you're doing, and not on you as a person. Um, yeah, and Mormonism has too many rules for me. I could never. But it's like so much is placed on what you do, like whether you're at church all the time, whether you're giving your money, your tithe, which is giving 10% of your income, if you don't know. I feel like all churches, at least all Christian churches, I would say, that's like, because I was non denominational. I'm not as devout, but I do a little something, but not as hardcore as I was before. But yeah, I feel like a lot of Christian denominations that I know, I feel like I'll say mainstream, because there's always extreme ones, but they all give 10% of your income. I was told 10% of your check, like every time you get paid. Um, but I guess if you, for the Mormons, it was 10% of your total income, and I think she said it's before taxes, so that's, you're really giving your money then. So it's like, everything is what you do versus who you are, and what you do for the Lord, for your husband, for the church, and not what you do for you. Um, and I also mentioned this already. But however, if you break the vow or are sexually assaulted, then it makes you feel worthless and blame themselves. If something like that happens. Especially with sexual assault, especially with how sexual assault is handled in most religions, is not to demonize the perpetrator, the person who raped someone else, is to demonize the victims. And many religions have like strict dress codes for women. Therefore, if a woman or a girl is sexually assaulted or abused, it's put back on them as tempters, even though they could literally be doing nothing. And I don't think there's any reason that somebody talked about this on Twitter a couple days ago, that rape is the only like crime that there is no like redeem. There's no way you can like rehabilitate someone, because that's not a spontaneous crime. You know what I mean? It's not like, oh, I stole some formula because I need it for my baby. There's like no reason, you know, other than just taking control of someone, because it's about power and dominance. So yeah, like it happens in war, it happens in marriages, it happens from parents to their kids. And then sometimes kids can hurt other kids. So it's like sometimes it could be like a cycle, but yeah, I feel like there's no redeeming someone who is a rapist. Uh, oh, and also, saying they weren't covered up enough, even though literal babies and nuns have been sexually assaulted, so that doesn't even matter. Um, so that's really sad, especially the babies, and like especially the nuns, because you think, you're somewhere where you're the most, for like me outside of being a nun, that sounds like the most religious person that you can be, and you could still unfortunately be violated. So of course it does not matter what you're wearing. It doesn't matter what you're doing. It doesn't matter if you're drunk. It doesn't matter if you're high. No means no. Body language, pushing, means no. Freezing means no. Just because you freeze doesn't mean that that's what you want. So there are many ways to say no. So don't internalize it because you didn't say no outright. If your body language, you're pushing, if you freeze, if you're unconscious, those all mean no. Okay, the fault is with the perpetrators, not the victims. Point blank, period. End of sentence. End of the story. That's it. Don't blame yourself. You're the victim. Okay? The culture also demonizes any kind of sexual exploration, which I feel like, and many studies have shown, is actually helpful for sex. Um, and I think if people want to get married, they definitely shouldn't follow. Oh wait, I skipped a line. Oh, and then these are mainly young adults because people want to get married like young. And that's also kind of pushed as in religion anyway. But then also somebody talked about how like a lot of people get married young that are really like into this purity culture because they want to have sex, and they don't want to wait until they're like old because they want to have sex. So they get married young for just because that's like just kind of a thing. And then also they want to have sex. They don't want to wait until they like their late 20s, 40s, 30s. And it's really put pressures on them, to get married in general, like young. And then, especially for women, because they want you to have lots of kids. So it is easier when you're younger. So there's that. I don't think that anybody should be looking at any porn. I don't think that's like really helpful. But I feel like, um, I think you should be able to look into things that you might like, STDs, in depth. I mean, really, the nitty gritty, the bad, the good, the very, very bad, um, things about pregnancy and birth, because so many people like don't know. Like I've learned so much from social media about pregnancy. You know, you're not told about literally you could possibly die. So that's number one. Nobody really talks about that when they're telling you about pregnancy. It's always, oh, you look so glowing. You look at you glow. You bring this new life in the world. But it's a lot of bad stuff too. You have all these symptoms. When you're pregnant, your hair is growing more. But when you not pregnant, it's falling out. It's like all kinds of stuff that can happen. You should talk about condoms, different kinds of lubricants because you might need it. Forms of birth control at the bare minimum. Those things that should be looked up. I don't think this serves anyone to just go into their wedding night cold turkey. I think purity culture also makes sex just for having babies and not for pleasure when it continues to limit, which continues to then limit these young couples even after being married. So you've been told for so long that something is bad, and I don't feel like it just magically goes away. Like how you just, oh, yeah, we're married now, so it's fine. I mean, it is fine in their like in the purity culture, but like how you just reset your mind from probably when you're like a young child up until you're a young adult. How do you just change that in your brain? Excuse me. Um, and I've known of people and I've heard of people who were really religious, still hesitant about sex even after getting married because it still has like an air of being taboo. And I remember there was this pastor who said that like him and his wife were into BSM, and people were like, but it's like they're married. So it's like it's like the stigma even after you're married. And I think people should do what they feel is right for them without feeling guilty and ashamed. I feel like you should have some knowledge of sex and what you may like and not feel guilty about it. So yeah. And clearly I'm not here in computer culture anymore. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you like the movie Teeth? Have you seen it? Have you not? Will you watch it now? What do you think about purity culture? Are you very religious? Are you not religious at all? Let me know, and I will see you all next week.